Hi, I'm Stewart from the Norfolk Honey Company and welcome to another Getting Started in Beekeeping. So today I thought we'd have another break from the monotony of me sitting in front of you all in my office talking about beekeeping by coming down to the kitchen and showing you some of the pleasures that we can derive from beekeeping, and that's enjoying the honey. I was on the internet a couple of days ago and happened across a fantastic new piece of equipment that I think you're all going to enjoy. I'm particularly looking forward to using it, and it's quite unusual, and I think it's going to help me with my beekeeping tremendously, because at the end of the day one of the things for me is enjoying the honey that I produce. And I found, as I mentioned, a really great piece of kit that I'm now going to share with you, and it is a cake tin. And one of my passions as well as beekeeping is cooking, and I found this fantastic cake tin on the internet which I'm really pleased about. So I want to make a cake for you today, so I'm going to talk you through how I make the cake. I'll put a link down in the description. This is a really good piece of equipment. It's really heavy duty and I'm hoping that it's going to produce a really good cake. So stick with me and let's bake a cake. So the first thing we've got to do is to make sure that this cake tin doesn't stick to the cake. So we've got to brush all of these little hexagonal cells with some butter to make sure that the cake doesn't stick to it when we're taking it out. And this is probably the most important bit. So the next thing to do is to dust all of this with some flour. And I'm just going to knock out the excess. So here's our tray. It's now been greased and floured and is ready for us to pour the batter mixture into once we've made it up. So the cake tin came with a recipe, so we're going to follow the recipe that came with it. I've not tried it before, so it'll be interesting to see how it comes out. So the first thing we need is 375 grams of flour. So that's plain flour or cake flour, and we need 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder, and 1 teaspoon of baking soda, so that's bicarbonate of soda I think, and then finally 1/4 teaspoon of salt. So we can now set this aside and carry on with the rest of the recipe. So we need 250 grams of butter and then 300 grams of sugar. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 150 grams of honey and 150 grams of sugar. So the next thing we've got to do is to beat the sugar and butter together using a hand mixer. So the next step is to add 4 eggs, and what I'll do is I'll post the recipe so that you can all see exactly what I'm doing. Don't worry if it starts to separate, you can just add some of the flour mixture. Don't forget to scrape down the sides of the bowl. So now we add the flour mixture. And we're also going to add 1 cup or 190 grams of sour cream, and that's about a 300ml carton of sour cream. And don't forget to scrape down the sides once more. And you can see that despite the eggs and butter separating, it hasn't made any difference to the end mixture. We've got one more thing to do, which is to add some lemon zest. So we'll just give this one more mix and then I'll get the lemon zest. So this is my favourite grater of all time. It's a box grater made by Microplane, and it has a little plastic cover on it, but it's got different types of graters on all four sides, and it's the fine one that I'm going to use. But this is a really good piece of kit. I'll put a link down in the description for it as well. And there we've got our lemon zest, and that's going to go back into the bowl. And then one final mix with the hand whisk. So that's our mix all prepared, and now we just have to pour it into the tin. And use a spatula just to get every last little drop out of the bowl. And then smooth it into the tray, making sure that it goes into all the cells and fills them all up nicely. Okay, so we're going to bake this now for around 45 to 50 minutes in a moderate oven, which is a fan oven, and it's set at 165, which is around 300 degrees Fahrenheit, I think. And just getting it right to the edges, and a quick shake just to get it into all areas. We're ready to go into the oven. The other thing to say is don't forget to preheat your oven. So I've just taken the cake out of the oven, I've inserted a skewer and it's come out clean, so I know that the cake is cooked. So here's the cake, fresh out of the oven. I've inserted a skewer, you can just see the holes here, and it's come out clean, so the cake is cooked and we just have to leave it for 10 minutes now before we can turn it out. Okay, so now for the tricky bit, we've got to try and get it out of the tin. So we're going to place the tin on the cooling rack, and then I'm just going to move it around. So we have the cake, and then we put the tray on top of the cake, and now just flip it over. Okay, now for the stressful bit. Which turns out to not be stressful at all. Fantastic. I am so pleased with that. That is fantastic. Let me get a close-up. That couldn't have come out any better, really. And so the finishing touch is to put on a glaze, and what we've got here is a honey, lemon and sugar glaze to go on the top. So this is kind of like an icing, and this will soak into the cake and be really yummy. So I'm just going to gently dab it onto the tops of the cake, and if you put it on while it's still runny, it will absorb into the cake and be really yummy. And then we'll just put a little bit between each section, because we don't want to waste it. And then finally we just pour the rest in between the cells. And there we have my fantastic looking honey cake. All that remains is to let it cool completely, and then we'll try some. So I've just cut a piece of cake, I'll just cut another piece. There is only one way to really decide what it's like, and that's to eat it. So you can see how the honey and lemon sugar drizzle has soaked into the cake. and I'm really looking forward to having this with a cup of coffee. So after all that effort, there's only really one way to decide whether it's any good or not, and that's to try it. I think they look absolutely fantastic. It's a really light looking sponge. That's fantastic. It's full of honey. You've got a really strong honey flavour. The lemon comes through really nice. The sponge holds together really well, and that's a fantastic cake. There are 19 of the cells, and I think this would be a really good Easter cake. Maybe put some icing on the top instead of the drizzle, and I think that would be a really great celebration cake. Perfect for a beekeeper or a beekeeper's family. I'll put some links down in the description so that you know where you can get the tin from, and I'll also post the recipe. I hope you enjoyed that. If you haven't yet subscribed, please do consider subscribing. Don't forget to check out the Instagram, Facebook and Twitter feeds. Give us a thumbs up and share with all your friends, and we'll catch up next time. Thanks for watching.